Hello. Welcome to the first in a series of short videos about how to write philosophy papers. Now what I'm going to say here, I believe, applies to any kind of academic paper where you defend a thesis. But it's particularly aimed at philosophy classes, and in particular in my philosophy classes. Now the title of this video is Start with Your Thesis. That's because the point of the video is to tell you and to emphasize very strongly that when you write a philosophy paper in my class, you should start your paper with your thesis. Your first sentence should be your thesis. There should be nothing before your thesis. And this actually makes writing a lot easier, because if you have a question in your mind about how do I start my paper? How should I start my paper? I don't know how to start my paper. The answer is very clear and simple. Think, what is my thesis? How do I write that down? I'll write it down. And if once you write your thesis down, you've started your paper. You've written your thesis, you've started your paper. Your paper is started. You can go on from there, explaining what you mean by your thesis, saying why your thesis is correct, explaining why other people don't agree with you and why they're wrong. But you start with your thesis, and that's the whole point of this little video, is to tell you. Now, on the other hand, if the first sentence of your paper is not your thesis, you should burn that paper and start over. You see, an academic paper is a delivery system for an idea. That's the whole point. You're trying to get an idea across to your readers and to get a grade. Because you see, your instructor cannot begin to evaluate your idea until he knows what it is. You are writing a philosophy paper, not a mystery novel. Anything you say before your thesis will be a waste of your time. It will be a waste of your instructor's time, which is a little bit more important to me. And it will bore your instructor. Observe, here I am reading your paper if your first sentence is not your thesis. Here I am reading your paper if your second sentence is not your thesis. Here I am reading your paper if your third sentence is not your thesis. Which leads me to my next point. Anything you say before your thesis will annoy your instructor. Because as I read your paper, as I read all the things you decided to say before you get to the point and actually say what your thesis is, will annoy me, because I will be reading them. I'll read sentence after sentence after sentence, and I will be saying inside my head, I was saying under my breath, I might even be screaming it, get to the point. Now, wasting time will not directly hurt your grade. I don't take points off for annoying me. True, you don't really want your instructor to be in a bad mood while he's grading your paper. But, you know, I'm an adult. I can overcome my unpleasant feelings towards your paper to give you a grade based on the stuff you write that's actually relevant, you know, that actually matters. The stuff you write after you've stated your thesis. But, conversely, stuff you write before you state your thesis will not help your grade at all. It will use up time and effort that you could have used to say something useful. And that wasting of effort can actually hurt your grade. Because putting time and effort into stuff that has nothing to do with explaining or supporting your thesis means not putting that time and effort into stuff that would actually earn credit for the actual assignment. Starting your paper with something that isn't your thesis is like dancing around your car for 5 minutes before you start driving home. It doesn't help you start the car, and it puts you 5 minutes behind on your trip, possibly getting you stuck in traffic because you started late. So the first sentence of your paper should be your thesis. Anyone who ever told you to do it differently is completely wrong. So now I hope you understand that the most important point in getting started with your paper, the most fundamental thing with your paper is that you start with your thesis.